Hello guys and welcome back to Shaun's Japanese course. Yes, we are finally back, and in this video we're going to talk about the basic sentence structure. Yeah. So before I start talking about the basic sentence structure in Japanese, I have to talk about the basic sentence structure in English, right? So we would have something as a reference, right? So in English we have this type of basic sentence structure, right? So in English, we have this whole subject, verb, object type of sentence structure, right? The who is doing what to whom type of sentence structure, as I like to call it. So for instance, we have something like I'm eating chocolate, right? I'm doing something to the chocolate, right? What am I doing to it? Well, of course, I'm eating it. As you can clearly see, right, in English, it's very important to state both the subject and the object, right? It's important to know who is doing what to whom, or to what in this particular case. However, in Japanese, we don't really care about that. We do not really care about who is doing what to whom. All we really care about is what is being done. All we really care about is the action. All we really care about is this little verb. So in Japanese, you don't have to say, I'm eating chocolate. All you really have to say is eating, and that's fine, because as long as the subject and the object are obvious from the context, you do not have to mention them at all. So if your listener knows that you're talking about yourself and chocolate, for instance, let's say that, I don't know, you gave me some chocolate, right? And you were, asking me, hey, have you eaten that chocolate? And I'm saying, yes, I'm eating it, right? In English, I would have to say, I'm eating it, right? I would have to mention both myself and, the chocolate, right? At the very least, I would have to say it, I would have to mention both the subject and the object. However, in Japanese, all I would really have to say is eating, and that would be fine, okay? So, of course, this is Japanese, so we would say taberu, as in, eating, but, the point is that all you really have to say is eating, and that's fine. So that's pretty much it, as far as the basic sentence structure goes, okay? Because, as I said, the verb is the only important bit. However, of course, there will be times when we will want to put something in front of this verb, like the subject or the object. Now, why do I say in front of the verb? Well, of course, because the verb is the important part of the sentence, right? The verb is the only thing that, the verb alone can make an entire sentence, right? It's the most important part of the sentence, and as a result, regardless of what we put in front of it, the verb itself has to be at the end, right? So even if you have something like this, like the subject and verb, or object and verb, like for instance, let's say nekko ga taberu, or nekko ga taberu, the cat is eating, or sakana o taberu, as in the fish is being eaten, right? So in both cases we had the subject and the object. However, the verb had to be at the end, right? Because the verb is the important bit. Now, of course, I know I'm being a little bit repetitive here, but it's very important to understand this, okay? And even if we have the subject and the object in the sentence, right? Even if we are stating both the subject and the object, because they're either, not obvious from the context, or because we specifically want to state them for whatever reason, and we have something like nekko ga sakana o taberu, as in the cat is eating the fish, the verb still has to be at the end, okay? Now, this is very important to understand, okay? Because this verb has a lot of power over the sentence, because it's the only important part of the sentence. It can be the sentence all of its own, right? And not only that, but if this is, the basic sentence structure, right? However, we will have more complex sentence structures, right? More complex sentences in which, these verbs will be in the middle of the sentence. However, they will not necessarily be in the middle of a sentence. It's just that a verb that's in the middle of the more complex sentence is essentially at the end of a more basic sentence that's a part of this complex sentence, okay? So it's very important to understand the fact that the verb has to come at the end of the sentence, okay? And even those complex sentences that I'm talking about will have a verb, right? An action that's the point of that sentence, right? That's the important part of that complex sentence at their end, okay? So the verb always has to come at the end, okay? Regardless of what we put in front of it, okay? Now, however, because the verb is the most important part of the sentence, right? And because it comes at the end, it does not really matter what we put in front of it, or in what order we put it in front of it. What do I mean by that? Well, we have both the subject and the object in front of it. However, we can put it, in the reverse order, right? We can reverse the order, right? Like, sakana o nekko ga taberu, And it still means the cat is eating the fish, right? Even though we reverse the order and we put the fish in front of the cat, right? The sentence, the meaning of the sentence has not changed. Now, how can we do that, right? How can we just, put the object and the subject wherever we please, right? I mean, yeah, sure, the verb is the important part of the sentence, but isn't, reversing the order of the subject and the object gonna get confusing? Well, it would get confusing. It would if we didn't have these little guys that have been highlighted the entire time. The particles. Now, of course, if you're wondering just how confusing this can get, check out the German sentence structure, okay? Yeah. But, that aside, as I said, we have in Japanese, we have these little guys, the particles. And particles are an amazing thing, okay? And they're also actually very important because, you see, what particles do is they attach to words and they basically determine their nature, right? In this particular case, they determine whether it's the subject of the sentence or the object of the sentence, but they can determine whether a word is a location or the topic of the sentence, or, even they can even attach at the end of the sentence, right? And change the nature of the entire sentence from like a casual question to a declarative statement, right? They really are an amazing thing, and having a good understanding of the particles is very important for your understanding of the Japanese language as a whole, However, in this particular case, right, these particles are the subject particle ga and the object particle o. And because they attach to the cat and the fish respectively, we'll always know that the cat is the subject and that the fish is the object of the action that comes at the end of this sentence. So, even if you have something like nekko ga sakana o taberu or sakana o nekko ga taberu, in both of these cases, the cat is eating the fish. The meaning of the sentence is the same because the subject and the object are the same, okay, regardless of their order, right? And the action at the end of the sentence is again the same, right? However, change the position of the particles, right? And all of a sudden we have something like this. Sakana ga nekko o taberu, as in the fish is eating the cat. So we change the position of the particles and all of a sudden we change the entire nature of the sentence, right? And of course, if we, put something like nekko o sakana ga taberu, it's still the fish eating the cat, okay? Because the object particle still attaches to the cat and the subject particle still attaches to the fish, right? So yeah, I hope you get the idea of just how powerful particles really are, okay? Just how important they are in understanding Japanese language as a whole. And the cool thing about particles is that, for the most part, they really are easy and simple to understand, okay? There will be some things that are unusual for us because they don't exist in English, okay? However, even those things are relatively easy to understand, okay? So they're not really that troublesome, right? And as a result, once you have a good understanding of the particles, you'll be able to understand which word in a sentence is, what function a certain word has in a sentence, right? Whether it's the subject or the object or the topic or the location, right? Even if you don't know what those words are, okay? Simply because you will know the particles that are attached to them, right? And you will even know the nature of the entire sentence, right? In the case of, having something like a casual question or a declarative statement or, whatever, right? Simply because you will know the appropriate particles that attach at the end of that sentence, right? So it's a really cool thing, okay? Particles are a really nice aspect of the Japanese grammar, and they're very, important to understand. Even more important, however, is this little verb. I mean, think about it. It's the most important aspect of the sentence. In and of itself, it can be an entire sentence, right? However, verbs conjugate, right? I mean, they conjugate in other languages, and Japanese is no different, right? Verbs conjugate in Japanese language as well. So if we change the verb, right, the form of the verb, right, if we conjugate it, well, the entire sentence changes. The nature of the entire sentence changes, because if the verb here is in the present form, taberu, then the whole sentence is present, right? In the present, right? However, if it's in the past form, tabeta, the entire sentence is in the past. If it's in the negative form, tabenai, the entire sentence is in the negative, right? And if it's in the polite form, tabemasu, the entire sentence is polite. So yeah, it's very, very powerful, okay? And the cool thing about verb conjugations in Japanese is that, as you can clearly see here, they really are as simple as this, okay? So, in the original example, we had something like Nekko ga sakana o taberu, right? The cat is eating the fish. And it was in the present. However, if we have Nekko ga sakana o tabeta, all of a sudden the cat ate the fish, right? It's in the past. Nekko ga sakana o tabenai. The cat is not eating the fish, right? He does not care about the fish. So the whole sentence is negative, right? And of course, last but not least, Nekko ga sakana o tabemasu. As in, kind sir, I am politely telling you that the cat is eating the fish. So yeah, it's a really cool thing, right? I mean, this verb has so much power over this sentence, right? I mean, it changes the nature of the entire sentence simply by, changing its form, right? It's really cool. And as a result, this little verb, or rather, these little verbs, will be the topic of the next video. And I hope I'll see you in that one.